take all the time. It's already past 4 p.m. Okay, so if we're all ready, we have all our teams in the room. It's very ready. So, who is presenting for Group A? You? Ah, okay. Fantastic. All right. Since some groups are not yet ready, we'll just take a brief presentation from Professor Modi. And then while he's doing that, please, all groups, put your outcomes together and let me know who is going to present for your different groups so that we can quickly go into that. Yeah. So I know for Group A already. Who is presenting for Group B? Okay, you are. Okay. Who's presenting for Group C? Group C? Who's presenting for Group C? Okay. Not now. I'm just knowing who is Group D. Who is presenting for Group D? Group D. 2 people? Why 2? Okay. That's fine. All right. While you prepare yourself, Professor Madi, please.
I'll stand here, and this came up in our... But it's connected. No, it's okay. I want it connected.
Because of the camera, so they can see you for online.
Yeah, but then if I disconnect, they won't be able to... Oh, the cable. Okay, thank you. Okay. So this should take no more than 2 or 3 minutes. But since this came up in the discussion, I thought I would show it. And this was something from 10 years ago, okay? And at that time, we didn't even have data coverage in rural areas, okay? Or maybe we started about 13 years ago, we finished 10 years ago. But the request, even though I'm an energy person, the request really came from the sectors. Health, education first, and then drinking water people said, oh, we are interested also. Data is of course old, but I wanted to highlight something that came up today. So in the same place, okay, and of course, just send me an email, modi@columbia.edu, I'll send a link. So planning tools were added in the same place. That's because that's how an LGA. So what was the use case? Nigeria had actually significant amount of sum of the order of $1 billion in the conditional grant scheme. But the conditional grant meant you must demonstrate what's needed, you must show that that change has occurred, and then only you get the funds. Okay, so there was a use case that unless you reported local data on the health facility, on the education facility, you could not. So the indicators were put in the same website. The survey tools are here also somewhere. You can download the raw data as well. In the 2 rounds they were done, and you could download the survey. They are all in the same place. Now, and it was organized by region of Nigeria. So there you see different regions. By different provinces. Within a province, it was, organized by LGA. There was an LGA summary provided. How many water points, how many educational facilities. There was a map. Now, all the effort, heavy lifting was done here by 750 enumerators of the LGAs themselves. So just want to point out, the ask was local and the main effort was local, okay? And you can put different backgrounds. The red is health. You can hit health, then you see all the health facilities. These were the indicators they were interested in, which one had electricity, which one not. So red is not, blue is, it is. So if, so which facilities have a facility for a C-section, so you could see that. Okay, they were obviously closer to the, so these indicators were developed by the conversation with the health people. Similarly, education, they were very interested in improved sanitation, which facilities have improved sanitation and all that, right? And drinking water points, where, there's many metadata, but is it functional or not? So I just wanted to highlight how conversations with different sectors, right, could be impactful for the energy space, right? Because they are coming from their own sectoral thinking, but if you tell them we are only thinking about energy, it's no good for them, right? So, and then, it was, so that's the good news so far. Bad news. Bad news is it took us a year to transfer everything to here, but then it was transferred to the states, individual. We don't know since then, and the leadership changes, people change. So I think the challenge still remains continuity, update. This is stale data. This is 10 years old. We discussed it here with the government officials. Sometimes, so it would be very interesting if this can also be hosted anywhere. I don't think there's any issues. So that's all. I can answer questions. Yeah, go ahead. No, we trained them actually at that time in Abuja. All the 750. So they came in batch of 350 each. So there was 5 people that the Nigerian government hired locally to manage everything. They checked the data quality, data coverage. There were 2 rounds. So, and then all the, and we did not come in with outside funding. We only came in with the Nigerian funding, and Nigerian government raised funds from elsewhere to do this work. Yeah, but yeah, the tool we developed, which is now called Kobo, was developed for this purpose. So there was no such tool. Now it's of course a free open source tool. FormHub and was also open source, but Kobo is maintained now by some people. So I think the reason it was easier for them is at that time there was already the conditional grant scheme, and they had, don't forget the numbers, but it was more than $1 billion to give out to different LGA, but it was conditional on performance. So they needed quickly a system that could allow that to happen. But you are talking about 98. When we first went to see the education ministry, it was very difficult to find out even how many schools are there, let alone where they are. So there was that demand pull in order to unlock that other funding. And I think they then went to maybe to the conditional grant scheme or others. This is the design that they picked. And I think at that time, I think the UK office maybe have contributed to the money. And there's a lot of information here about all the data sources, caveats, and all that. And the tools are there. So I've just given an example where if we do something, we put the survey when it was done, how it was done, the raw data, all in the same place. But that's the best we can do as somebody from outside. So, and anybody want the link, please just email me and okay. So any other quick questions? Okay. Thank you, by the way.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. Okay, so we can have. Okay, A is still not ready. Okay, okay, we can have the group presentations now. Just tell us the outcome from your sessions. So group A is not ready. I guess we'll move to group B then. B, are you ready? Okay, so come over then. Remind us your topic and your outcomes. Okay.
All right. Good day, everyone. My name is Abdulbashir Bashir. I'm here to represent Group B. And the topic we discuss about is funding, investment, and strategy. So out of our discussion, we look into current source of funding. What are the current sources of funding that are available around? The first is local funding and international funding. We have funding from investors, NGO, and the likes. And also, we look at grant funding also is also there. Debt finance is also there. Equity is also there. Then research institute as well. And also, NOMAP, microfinance, all on. Those are the current funding source that we've discussed so far. Moving down, then where can we get all these fundings from? As in, we talked about Shell Foundation and Energy Catalyst. Also, you said also fund some businesses as well. And UNESCO as well is also part of what we've come up with. GSMA is also part. Acumen is also part of those people that provide funding as well. So what are the gaps in this sector, or what are the gaps for you to get funded? We made mention of writing proposal. Most organizations fail to get this grant because of the proposal they've put in. Some, and also capacity building is also part of what we talked about. Data as well. So some organization doesn't have a proof data for them to convince investors. What are the possible solutions that we can that can be brought into the problem we've already stated so far? There's capacity building. Just like the open source energy that we came in for, this is a capacity building for us to have awareness about all the fundings institute that we have around. And we also look at CSR. CSR also provides solution to that. So I don't know from Group B if there's anyone that can support me with, these are all what I've jotted so far from my own end. Is there anyone from Group B that can support me? Anyone? All right, so that is just it for me. Yeah.
Please, round of applause for Group B. Any questions for Group B, by the way? Any questions? You have a question? Okay.
So have you, I mean, you have listed a couple of potential funding possibilities. Have you discussed or identified which of those, which you named and listed, are more likely or more keen to fund projects in the open source space in energy access? Because I mean, there was a good summary of possibilities, but I assume, or have also a certain idea or opinion of which of these are more likely to be open to fund open source approaches, while others are likely less. But is that something that you have discussed or not at all? Okay.
So it's not necessarily that these funders will be supporting in open source directly, but it could be more of a excuse me. So it could be more of the project that they are supporting, like we discussed in our discussion. The end users might not really know if they are actually using an open source project. So, for example, we are one of this use case scenario. So, regardless of this, who is likely mostly to support open source projects, but I think it's they don't really sometimes it's not something that they will be aware of, but based on where the solution is actually facing, that's where how you actually plan your business plan, that's what is actually going to allow them to invest in your product.
You people don't want to clap for him. Okay, that's Group B. Thank you so much for that deliberation. Group A, you ready? Okay, time for Group A. Please. Okay, welcome, Akansha. All right.
So I'm so happy Professor Modi went before me and said the need for collaboration and why we are here, especially, you know, when the demand comes from the ground up. Are you projecting or shall I? Okay. So we tried to do a very scattered approach. We started doing first, we did the value chain, where all you need collaboration to start with, and we started with the sticky notes that, you know, where we think the collaboration needs. And if you see the big hotspot kind of a thing in center is where we found the collaboration is the most required, which is for the data providers and data solutions. That so basically the users and the the product providers and, you know, developers needs to collaborate more. We also talked about the collaboration coming from the start. Owner to help you if there is a regulatory framework which can support collaboration. And then we also talked about users. Are we collaborating enough for the users to go ahead with? And shall we go to the next one, Vivian? You. Okay. Yeah, let's go to hindrances. So we thought there need to be a list of hindrances that why are we not collaborating enough when we know there needs to be collaboration. So then we decided, we thought, you know, sometimes the language we speak in is not, you know, understandable enough for everybody. Maybe my 6 is your 9. How do we ensure that, you know, you're collaborating? That sequencing will be different from what I'm speaking. And then sometimes it's a matter of priority that, you know, for a person, a use of data analytics is nice to have, but for another person, it might not be a priority for them, especially if it's a B2C. For them, maybe business and profit might be a priority. Then it also becomes capacity and priority. So is there an incentive to collaborate? Can we find common areas of interest to collaborate? And then we also talked about ROI on the cost of collaboration, that if I'm collaborating, what is the return I'm actually going to get? Then we also figured out that sometimes there is a lack of awareness what is happening and what is not happening. And if there's a lack of enabling framework, can there be a framework which actually enables all the hindrances? Shall we go to the next one? Yes. Yes, please. Then we tried to figure out what are, and we thought there are so many challenges, let's try to figure out 1 or 2. So we clubbed the challenges into bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3, and what are the missing blocks for having the vibrant community of collaborators. So we then, I actually can't read it. So. Yeah, so we thought that maybe we start with credit promotion through, you know, where we have honors, we have visibility within the sector, we have attribution. We also need to do a need assessment on how to benefit from collaboration, and that can then lead to your credibility and attribution again. One very interesting thing which came up is if an organization can have a this funded mandate for collaboration, and then I know everybody's looking towards EnAccess, and who then makes it sustainable and organic, and that has a steering committee to then take it forward once that funding gets over. And then we also need to ensure that whatever the approach we are talking about needs to fit into our existing life, and then, it is there and we can deep dive whenever it is required, but it actually fits in our work. And very important thing is we actually meet periodically. OSS has been a great platform for collaboration, but how do we then ensure that it keeps on going next, month on month, and we do collaborate maybe in Discord or somewhere else. And then we also have to figure out that can we find out how to fuse the sectors who have similar mandate. Like in energy access space, some people want to do open source. There is an open source community. Can we think of a Venn diagram or something? One option was target orientation, which can lead to messaging, events, webinar, job boards, which leads to opportunities and onboarding for more and more open source collaboration. Now, have I missed anything? Yes.
No, I don't think I missed anything. I just wanted to highlight something that was interesting in our session, that it went throughout the whole session that there was a few that were really talking particularly in terms of collaboration only about data and sharing data. For them, collaboration was only how can we share data bidirectionally, while others had more the scope. This is one part, but other things are also collaborations on how can we work together on the products, on the hardware, on the software, and so on. So I just wanted to make clear that for us, all of these are covered, but we identified that there were like some that were really concerned about the data sharing, and others were more about collaboration in a broader sense on the products themselves, not only about the data sources. But we tried to cover everything under the same umbrella.
Okay. Is that all? Any question? Questions? Go in. Questions? Go in only? Okay.
So I was wondering if you had the chance to discuss about the potential role of donors in promoting collaboration between their grantees. Sorry if I missed it.
Yes, there is a posting for that. We talked about donors. We talked about how donors, can help collaborate. Then we talked about if donors can help enabling framework. Therein, if comes the funded, mandate. And then we also talked about donors actually, yes, in terms of. And it's my writing, which I'm trying to figure out. Yes, obliged consortium, and in KPI. So if, and this is the example Vivian and I were discussing. He is promoting them, and this is what Vivian said in the morning, that Good Energies is asking us to do this, understanding how many open source solutions is there, and Good Energies is promoting us. So can Good Energies says, oh, you have to do open source, or you have to actually talk to them and figure out how can you actually collaborate more. So we did discuss this more, but I think it was only a limited people talked about it, and we wanted to pick up more where more people wanted to collaborate, even on collaboration challenge.
Where it was included indirectly was the contribution by Raspan, actually, who said what would need as the solution for this to provide an enabling framework, a funded mandate. So I mean, it needs the organization that has the mandate, but it needs also the funder. So that's the role. There must be a funder that is open to fund such a mandate. So that's the other aspect where it plopped up, where the funder could, or the funders could play a role to that.
Not require any additional funding, which would be of course welcome. Yes. I'd like to propose a low-hanging fruit opportunity here, which wouldn't require funding, even though that would be welcome. Most of us are required to report to donors. And we report on a number of KPIs, right? KPIs and sub-KPIs. Could one of the KPIs or sub-KPIs be specifically on collaboration? So it's not our interest or will to collaborate only, but something we have to do. And we have to report on it. How do you collaborate between, I don't know, EAE and a prospect, or between WRI and EnAccess? And report on it. I don't know if we have some donors in this room, but I'd really like to ask you to make this happen, because you only have to receive a report, essentially, on an additional KPI. And your grantee will spend a few minutes to report on that, but much more time to ensure coordination is happening. Thanks.
Thank you. Group A. Thank you so much. Once again, round of applause for them. Okay, Group C. All right. Introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Alfred Ndobili, and I'm interning with the Integrated Energy Planning team at SE for All. I had a discussion with Group C, and we had to discuss on data management, governance, security, and open data standards for energy access projects. Fortunately for us, our topic is bordering around issues that have been discussed here since yesterday, where we continue to talk about sharing data, sensitive data, what is sensitive, what is not sensitive, how can we collaborate better in the data space for energy access. And to discuss this topic, we had to break the conversation into a couple of questions. The first one, which bordered around data management, was to ask the question of what is needed from a data management infrastructure. So if we want to ensure data management within the energy access space and projects, what do we need? During the conversations, we had some highlights concerning the fact that, and this was really very important, that whatever had to be done with regards to data management infrastructure, it had to be need-tailored. For example, it has to be developed for users. Is it being developed for government to use? Is it being developed for investors? Is it being developed for mini-grid developers? So what is the need for the data management? And that is a question that has to be answered from the data infrastructure point of view. Questions around or talks around the flexibility. It should be flexible enough to accommodate new requests from users. The possibility to collect, harmonize, manage, visualize, analyze contents and data from multiple sources. Part of that data management infrastructure need is for data standards. So the question is, how can data administrators and providers comply with the standards? I know standards is one of the things we also talked about yesterday and during the course of our conversations, including the other software, the developers. I think that is for Prospect. Yeah, I think Prospect is doing something around data aggregation and all of that. So those are the part of the things we considered. So we talked about the use of standards in data collection and storage. So if we have standards, then it's better to aggregate data, where from the onset we talked about the need case and the use case. If I'm a mini-grid developer and I'm collecting data, I have to know how to collect my data and in what form, and essentially what kind of data I need to collect. And just to rush through the other points on this question of data management infrastructure, we also looked at what are the infrastructures we should be considering. Is it cloud storage, on-site storage? If it's cloud storage, what kind of services? For example, Amazon, or what other services should be considered and used as a standard, within the industry. Modular infrastructures were also considered, the possibility to document metadata, and this is a very important point for discussion, that we should be able to document, because documentation is also part of the process. Professor Modi also talked about the fact that research has been done for over 10 years, but there's poor documentation. And so what we're doing now is we're coming back to reinvent the wheel instead of continuing from where the work has already progressed to. So that need for metadata documentation is really important for us in the data management infrastructure space. Yes, of course, open source infrastructure was also discussed, and the need for validation of available data with ongoing realities, or on-ground realities rather. So we also had a situation where You are given a data from, for example, in the case of Nigeria, the REA or other government agencies. When you go on ground for a consultant to do work, it is a complete different ball game. So there has to be somebody or some institutions who have to validate the data. So that's also what is needed, part of the considerations we need for data management infrastructure. And finally, on that question, the possibility to collect data at different geographical levels. And that speaks to the fact that, or to the question of who is using this data and for what purpose. The second question is bordered around what is needed to build and maintain such a system. So now we're looking at such a robust system. What is needed to build and maintain it? The first we have here, among a few others, continuity and sustainability, because the data has to be constantly updated. So there's need for continuity, and then a sustainable means to gather this data so that that continuity, continuity and sustainability are in kind of in Nigerian parlance, or 5 and 6 or something like that. They work together hand in hand. And we also talked about capacity building, strengthening, and the need for capacity to be retained. So not just about the capacity building, but if we have had a workshop like this and we have trained 200 or 100 people for a particular tool, those 100 or 200 people, are they going to remain in the sector? Or after 1 year, all of them are out of the sector, and then we need to retrain new people again. So there's need for retainment of capacity within the space. And that's an important thing we also need to look at in the data space. And this includes training even at administrative levels. So even at the government levels, the government officials, policymakers, because they need training themselves to be able to govern data. So we also need that training at both the low level and the higher level. Then an important one is a shared vision between key data providers. We also have situations where within one organization, different teams have data that they should use in common, but they don't even know. And in many cases, they don't even know the right questions to ask to have access to that data or those data. So there's need for a shared vision between key data providers, whether it's within the organization, outside the organization, intra-organizations, and the likes. So, and the final one on this question is a committee to collect and validate energy data. I spoke about that earlier on. There's need for validation. For example, in Nigeria, any data that's not coming from the MBS, you cannot consider an authoritative data. So there's need for an institution to validate energy data. The third question on data management here is, what are the key departments to host the system? So the group was biased here because we had Nigeria as a case study. So in Nigeria here, we're talking about the National Bureau of Statistics, and that is, we say Ogat Pata Pata in Nigeria here. So that is the boss of bosses when it comes to hosting of data. And then in energy space, we now consider the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Energy Commission of Nigeria, the Ministry of Power, Office of the Vice President, because it has a role, it has a task force on energy and the likes. Then, of course, the Rural Electrification Agency. The next aspect of the conversation is data governance. So I already spoke data governance earlier on, but in this, the roles of each institution, organization when it comes to data governance. And here, the NBS, for example, we're asking, what are their roles? Consumption data, so whatever is happening in Nigeria, the NBS has to say, oh, in Nigeria, in this month or in this quarter, this is the amount of energy that was used, the amount of fuel that was sold in the country, and the likes. The Energy Commission of Nigeria, talking about sectoral data at the national level. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, talking about real-time data and the SCADA process. The Ministry of Power, talking about gas supply. We have the Rural Electrification Agency, REA, talking about number of connections. Of course, they're involved in a lot of developmental projects. The mini-grid capacity, the production, consumption, data for educational facilities. Cutting across other institutions that require energy. education, healthcare, agriculture, data for industries. Then the distribution companies, of course, they are more or less the primary data aggregators, because they give access to households and to organizations direct use of energy data. And we also have other key data providers, including the Ministry of Education for educational data. In different countries, not only Nigeria, we have projects like Powering Education, Powering Healthcare. They also provide data, those ministries, in their own respects. And that's the end. Thank you.
All right, questions?
Well, not really like a question, but concerning the data stuff, I really think the Nigerian Population Commission should also be part of the stakeholders, because they at the local level, they know the number of deaths that are coming per time. Then I also think the EnAccess and other bodies here, like with the Energy Commission and GIZ, should have something like a stakeholder or policy engagement with the government. Like Nigerian Bureau of Statistics that he mentioned, I don't really even think maybe they have any idea of energy or what is going on. So there is need to awareness. I didn't hear that, but they need to be aware that this and this is what we actually need. So when you are going for, or when a data is being requested, it's readily available. That okay, for energy data we have it in stock. For this, even for healthcare, we have that. So I really think those bodies need to be put in the loop, so that we can take it up from there. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that contribution. Last but not the least, no other question, right? So I don't miss anyone. Okay. Last but not the least, Group D have two presenters, correct? They are still debating. Round of applause for them. All right.
Good afternoon. I think, is it afternoon or evening? Good evening. Yeah, okay. So we are Group D. I think we had a challenge kind of identifying who will speak, so we decided we'll do it together. And then another disclaimer is that our presentation is purely open source. Feel free to redistribute, modify, and do whatever you want to do with it. Yeah, so our session was actually focusing on the interplay between open source and intellectual property. Yeah, so I think the whole workshop we've been mostly talking about open source, so we want to look at the other side of the divide. And the first set of questions, to set us off, we just started by defining what open source and intellectual property is. So for open source, I think what we came up with was basically it can either be a product or a service that the creator of that product or service has given out for free, for reuse, modification, redistribution, for either commercial or non-commercial purposes. And the good thing about it is it allows collaboration, advancement, and also allows a wide user community to be able to build and update these kind of solutions. And for proprietary, I think it's just the complete opposite. looking at something, a product or a service that you have to, there are conditions to it. So you either pay for it or you're able to use it. So the first thing that we were looking at is the nexus and balance between these two. How can they work together? So in this sense, we saw some similarities between the for the two. They both offer solutions. So whether it's open source or proprietary, it offers solutions. And how they can work, or the nexus between the two, what we saw is they can be both used or at the same time or separately within a process based on what will work best. Of course, we're mostly advocating for open source solutions, but in the very event, in the event that the open source solution cannot offer this service, we were advocating for using the intellectual property necessary. So the second question we were looking at was the legal framework for this within Nigeria. And I think we had some two representatives in Nigeria who I think will had given us some solutions, or rather some bodies within Nigeria. One was the Copyright Commission, the other one was the Corporate Affairs Commission that does patents, registrations. Then there's the Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology. So the other thing that we're looking at is open source free, and what value can be created from these open source solutions. So I think what we discussed as a group was that open source is essentially free, but I think based on the creator of this open source solution, it can come with restrictions and conditions, such as you need to acknowledge the source, and also there are some open source solutions that the creator says do not use these solutions in creating proprietary products. And then the values that you can get from this will be the services that can be offered from these solutions. You can also, various use cases where your solution is being used in a big way for impact. And also there is a trust in the software because you can look at the source code. So you know exactly what you're using and what products it's generating, and you can always modify it. And yeah, and the source code is open. So the other thing that we're looking at is the level of arbitration or jurisdiction that governs the open source. I think we've already touched on this. In Nigeria, I think there are some bodies that deal with this. And yeah, I'll hand it to my co-presenter.
Thank you, Douglas. Well, the next points that we touched was more on the operational side of businesses. So how can we leverage actually open source solutions for agile product development and in business operations? Well, in that sense, I think we all agreed that open source solutions had a really big potential for businesses. And the way to leverage these solutions is actually to always have in mind that you can use open source to not start from scratch. So this means building upon existing efforts and well, using the power also of collaboration that brings the open source solutions. What sustainable business practices can be put in place to promote open source? That's something that we also discussed. And in this sense, we talked about the importance of giving credits and recognition to the creators and the developers of the open source solutions. We think that is something that needs to be put in place in some kind of maybe guidelines or standards, so that businesses that actually make use of open source solutions can make use of them, but also retribute to the community that has been part of that development or of the creators on that recognition, and that's also something that can show credibility to the stakeholders. The next point that we discussed was on the interplay and the interconnection between open source and IP or proprietary solutions in businesses. I think Douglas mentioned a little bit about this at the beginning. Here we said that it depends a lot on the use and the objective of each one of the businesses and each one of the solutions. It could be that you may need to use a proprietary solution for some part of the process of your business that is maybe not available as open source. But we think that also both open source and intellectual property solutions can be used in connection or under the same organization or as part of different parts of a process. Well, coming to an end, we finally discussed the open source as a potential viable industry in Nigeria. In here, we discussed the potential also to leverage the already existing work done in the open source community in Africa that has a big community here in Nigeria, the potential of creating open source solutions here in Nigeria and the possibility to export it to other communities outside of Nigeria, and the potential that open source has to create jobs and to also grow the potential that it has to create jobs and grow the economy. What else? So yeah, I think this we discussed this, but the blend of both open source and proprietary solution can coexist. We came to that conclusion, but it depends on the application, on the transparency required, on at the end the objective that each one of the users require or want from that. And finally, the socioeconomic implications and impacts that open source solutions can have, and specifically in Nigeria. And here it came up mainly the potential for job creation, for innovation within the country, and the big opportunities that there are for SMEs in Nigeria in the clean tech sector to also leverage everything that has been done already as open source. Yeah, so that was our very interesting discussion. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Okay. Lucky you, no questions. Wow. That must have been a very interesting deliberation from all the different groups. Well, please, we want to say thank you so much. A round of applause for everybody. This has really been a fantastic engagement. Okay. And it's been good. But before we wrap up, I want to invite Dimitris to come and give us a summary of today. He did yesterday, so I want you to do today. All right, please, Dimitris. Just an overview of all we have done today and a recap of the symposium.
Recap of the symposium. Wow. Yes, please. Thank you. As I said yesterday, just a year ago, it was in May, this was simply an idea. A couple of years ago, together with EnAccess and a couple of other partners, we organized a webinar series titled Open Source Geospatial Solutions in the Energy Access Space. And we received quite some interest from a number of practitioners in convening this group in person. So last year, exactly a year ago, said, shall we give it a try? It's not easy, because all of us are busy with the work that we are leading. there was no collaboration or partnership established between WRI and EnAccess, but it's our passion for promoting open source solutions to bridge the energy access gap that brought us together. I don't think we could ask for a better partner than EnAccess Foundation to work on this. Clara, Vivian, Tamara, earlier on, Wisdom, Taha, Daniel, all of you did an amazing job. Same goes for the WRI team that has been involved. So a round of applause for the EnAccess team. I'd like to say that to me, it's the quality of the audience that matters the most. Yes, some stakeholders were not represented here. And this was not, of course, our intention. We would like to have everyone in the room. That's why this was a symposium free to attend. We managed to get a couple of excellent sponsors and partners. We had Get Invest, Prospect, World Bank / SMAP, in-kind contributions from EnAccess and WRI. I'm not forgetting anyone. And I think it was clear over the past couple of days how vibrant the community, the open source community, and the EnAccess community in Nigeria is. And the potential for impact, I've been saying the same thing. The potential for impact in Nigeria is larger than anywhere else, not in the continent, in the world. So there is a lot more we can do moving forward. For us, WRI, it would have been much easier to organize this in another country where we have an established office, connections, engagements, partnerships. But we decided, together with EnAccess, to organize the first one in Nigeria. And hopefully there will be more to come based on the feedback that we receive from many of you. We are also, yes, thank you. We are also glad to see that some important partnerships are emerging. Partnerships between solution providers, partnerships between solution providers and solution users, potential funding, which can be hopefully channeled towards the right approaches to address some specific challenges. Tomorrow, there will be a few hackathon challenges and one ideation challenge. I can say a few words about the ideation challenge. You are welcome to speak about the hackathon challenges. The ideation challenge that Akansa is leading is on developing a collaboration for open source geospatial solution providers. Why? Because as you realized today and yesterday, and many of you are familiar with the ecosystem, there have been a number of open source solutions available, but we've been working in silos. When I say we, including ourselves, and we want to promote collaboration. Can we leverage our strengths instead of duplicating efforts in this space? So if any of you would like to join this ideation challenge and you are interested in finding out more, Akansa is the right person to talk to. The outcome of this challenge is, as the word says, a collaboration roadmap in a visual manner. How much time do we have? Can I get maybe a couple of minutes more? Yes, thanks. I'd like to pass the mic to each one of you, at least the blue chairs. You can use one word that comes first to your mind to characterize this particular inaugural symposium. Just one word. Yes. One word. No two.
Okay.
One word. Interesting. Boring.
Okay. It has been actually fantastic. But I have something to say, please. Please.
We'll come back. One word.
Yeah, one word. Impactful.
Impact.
Amazing.
Collaborative.
Informative.
Inspiring.
Educational.
Networking. Yes, coming.
Interesting.
Insightful.
Where?
Eye-opening.
Interesting.
Our rapporteur. A round of applause for our rapporteur.
It's been informative.
Yes.
Scalable.
Scalable. Yes, we like this. Anyone else? Yes.
Fantabulous.
Wow. Princess.
Massive.
Sahira.
Insightful.
Alfred.
Expository. It's been expository.
Educational.
Opening.
Opening. Yes. Anyone I missed?
Insightful.
Interesting.
Enlightening.
Yes.
Pedagogy.
Inspiringly eye-opening. Enlightening.
Adrian.
Informative.
Have I missed anyone? Sorry if I did. Yes.
I did. Enlightening.
Yes, yes. Sorry, Prof.
Inviting.
I'm German, so exciting madness.
Stressful.
Fantastic.
Finally, I was the one to apply some pressure to wisdom. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been wonderful to interact with all of you. Yes, of course.
Okay, I've said fantastic, but there's something you said about, the market in Nigeria, about this open source. And I want you to take this back to WRI. I'm a big fan of WRI. I got to know about this information, open source from WRI. So I want you to, apart from the office in Kenya, let them, create an office in Nigeria here.
Can you say this louder?
Yes. I know her. I know Susan.
Are you listening?
Yes. Apart from the office in Kenya, Nigeria is massive. Like, the population is massive. So if WRI has an office in Nigeria, it will cover West Africa. Kenya is in, I think, East Africa. So WRI will cover West Africa in Nigeria. Please take this back to WRI. Please let them, so that you can have WRI office in Nigeria, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, final question, and please do be honest. Would you like this to be continued? Would you like to have an OSIS year 2? Shall we reconvene in 2 years' time in another country? Can I get an honest? Are you interested? Yes? In OSIS 2? All right. I'll take this as a yes. All right. In 1 year? In 1 year or in 2 years' time? All right.
Okay, Vivian, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dimitrios, for this great wrap-up, which I don't have much to add, aside the fact that I want also to thanks a lot to WRI. I mean, you were putting us in the spot as a great organization to collaborate with, but at the same I can say about WRI, it has been from the beginning a great and open collaborationship with a fun work to work together, always remote. We never met, I mean, except for Tamara and Dimitrios, which had the chance to meet each other until the day before the event. And yeah, it was a crazy experience, and I would actually like and feel they deserve it, the team from WRI, Dimitrios, Susan, Newton, Douglas, Akancha, come here, Clara as well, please. Wisdom's already here. Let's all together once be here, and a bit of clapping for all this in person. Look at the face. Newton! Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And one really special thanks. I mean, all of the team have done an amazing work, but I have to say really particular thanks. All have done their bits and pieces, but particular thanks to Clara, which particularly in the last weeks and during the days here have done everything as possible and beyond to think about every single detail. And yeah, thank you so much. We really much appreciated. Yeah, that said, I think we wanted to also let you see just a few impressions. I won't say much, just like also for you to remember what happened the last days. I also know it was very packed, so you possibly already forgot that you made some pictures. So yeah, there's somebody needs my password. Dimitrios, you explained something about it can be open source but still password protected, right? Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're the OSEAS Avengers, and we are actually also happy if you want to see an OSEAS 2. We welcome contributions also to organizing that. Not only financial contributions also, but I'm rather thinking at this moment on people, organizations wanting to join this journey. So we are not necessarily wanting to keep it our event. We believe it's a community event, and it should become more and more a community event where we are happy to drive and lead it in the beginning. But yeah, we would love to see more organizations joining this effort with in-kind contributions, taking part in making that happen. Yeah, that said, thank you so much for attending. You are really a great audience, particularly the ones that stayed till the end with this very packed program. And one more applause for all of you as well, that you made it to here and shared with us this time. And as the ideation session was promoted, there's a hackathon tomorrow. A few of you will stick around, as far as I know. There will also new people coming that have not been here these days, as the hackathon will be more tech. There are 3 topics. I briefly say the name. The one is the PayGo token stack to be translated into another stack. It's currently in Python. We're looking to translate it in Rust, PHP, or Java. It depends a bit on the interest of the group and the skills of the group, if we make all of them or just one of those. So if any of you is like developing one of these languages and would be interested to join, you're welcome. Then another one is about a template for open source hardware projects to be used as a repository to maintain, like, to document projects and to work together on this. And the last one is actually, how is it called? A data validation algorithm, where Brianna, who's not here right now, will have the lead on, and has also some data to provide in which when we can play around with the data validation algorithm, which she actually mentioned earlier already. Yeah, happy to see you tomorrow as well. And yeah, I hand back to the MC.
All right, please round of applause for Vivian. He has said all that needs to be said, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we draw the curtain for today, and it's been fun doing this with everyone. And like we have said, we hope to see this happen over and over again, of course, with your support. But I just want to once again thank our sponsors, our Prospect, GIZ, World Bank, and ESMAP, and who else did I miss again? Sponsors? Okay, they're all there. And of course, our partners, CGC, and then the open source community in Africa. They made this very easy, to help us drive. And of course, the entire organizers. Please, thank you so much for all the effort. And the symposium comes to an end. My name still remains Wisdom Chap Jumbo, and it's been fun doing this. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the hackathon tomorrow. All right.
And one more thing, very important, as yesterday the people were not that thirsty as the reception, we have a few drinks left from the reception, which later in the evening we will be at the poolside and trying to finish the leftovers of drinks from yesterday. So if any of you want to join again, you're most welcome.
Are your AirPods missing? Okay. Oh.